Motion for the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been moved by Board Member Bickle, seconded by Board Member Oborny. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes 5-0. At this time, we'll open it up for audience participation.
You might wait a little bit.
Wow. All right, moving on. Next is communications from other organizations, and this includes the Hayes Rec Commission August agenda and minutes and the Early Childhood Connections Director's Report. Are there any questions or discussion on these? All right, if not, moving on, we will go to John for the school spotlights.
School spotlights, there's two items I want to bring up. Early Childhood Connections, really wanted to give kudos to Dave Staub, Verl Brown, and Robert Boland. They're really part of the transportation department, but they ended up helping tremendously a couple of weeks ago of going to Junction City. Unfortunately, Junction City's program had fallen through, and much of their equipment was being divvied out to different programs across the state. And one of the items was some playground equipment that the gentleman helped very much in trying to get removed so they could bring here and we could end up utilizing it. You know, fairly new equipment. So that was something that really wanted to give them some attention there and saying thank you to them. Wilson teacher receives $500 for classroom grant, and that was Betsy Fornash. They ended up getting the $500 for books from Books Club giveaway. Really will help supplement Betsy's second grade classroom library. So those are the only two that we have for this evening.
All right, anything else?
That would be it.
You want to move on to your report then?
Yeah,
right
the
away?
report, the only thing I have there has to do with playground equipment too. The rain just really did slow down Wilson trying to get things in place there. Things were set up for a week or even 2 weeks ago to get started, and they've got to start now. If you go by, you'll see the mountains of mulch, but around it, they are actually starting to place some of the equipment. So I'm excited that by the end of the week or very much the end of next week, it will be all finished.
Can you remind me again how that was funded?
Ended up having the home and schools had put in a tremendous amount of money. We got a little bit of grant money from Dane Hansen. Then the school, that's where the money came in. It was funded over time. We'll probably get the same thing coming to us for O'Laughlin. O'Laughlin has been fundraising for the last couple years for this, and they have a substantial amount too, and they're talking about trying to again try to put that towards playground.
Yeah, I think they're pretty wanting to do it pretty aggressively, and when they saw Wilson's going up, they were
Sure.
like, what?
Well, you have Lincoln's, of course, which was all a grant, and
Right.
then you end up. I shouldn't say all. We did, just so you know, we did fund the. One thing that was left out in that process was the mulch. Somehow that was forgotten, and so the district was taking care of making sure that was taken care of. So there's a little bit of money from many different ways, but the majority of it came from home and school.
Yeah, I know they were asking me if there's like restrictions on, safety or certain bids or anything like that, and I told them to call you.
Very good. I knew Vicki had forewarned me last year. That was really in the plans. So.
Anything else on your report?
No, that was all.
Okay. Move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda tonight includes the board meeting minutes from August 20th, 2018, the approval of bills in the amount of $3,516,252.31 and personnel transactions.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition of the time being added the last meeting on the item A, board meeting minutes for the end of the meeting being added to that. And I think Sarah has that in the updated agenda item. So make a motion to approve those.
Do I have a second to that?
I'll second.
All right. It's been moved by Board Member Bickle with the aforementioned amendment and second by Board Member Walker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. All right, moving on to old business, goal setting.
Goal setting, I just want to point out that the first one that came out was the 4 different goals. And those 4 goals tried to do exactly what was stated of not throwing out anybody's ideas. Everything was kept. It was some of it was fused together because a couple of them were very close in wording. But trying to take that and create some objectives along with those 4 different goals, that was the first part. The question may be, were they really placed in the best of spot? Well, that can be part of the evening tonight of just having that discussion. But then came up a reminder, which I do appreciate that very much, of going from 4 to maybe 3 goals. So there's another plan, and that was 3 goals. Really doesn't take away from it. If you look at it, 3 goals could work. We may have gone from 5 to 4, but you could probably make the 3 goals work as well. And then there was another suggestion by another board member of just placement for the third option that was in there. That's 3 goals as well. So the only item I really wanted to work off of this evening, and I hope we can succeed in that, is make a decision of do you like the 4 different? We can do much with the objectives, and we can move them around. We can make sure that they all stand somewhere within our goals, and then work of fleshing that out completely over the next. And that wouldn't be just the board. That would be other administration. That'd be trying to end up identifying objectives to go with it, and then create even a timeline that exists with it. But if you like the 4 goals, we would work from it. If you're looking at the second draft or the second option or the third option where it's just 3 goals, I know that can work just as well. It's just that you would have more emphasis placed upon a few of those objectives that are below perhaps the KISA one, where it ended up having school improvement. There'd be probably a little bit more teeth that we would want to end up having with a few of those objectives under it, since we were trying to say that the part of relationships is part of KISA. It is. But you can have it as a separate to put more emphasis on it as a 4th goal if you wanted to. So I guess open discussion at this point of whatever individuals think. I wish for everybody to understand, full well any of these can work. It's just a matter of which one do you want to have as the guide and work off of, and try to end up making it work as well as possible as we put something together for the next 3 to 5 years. Anybody's thoughts? Yes.
I like 3.
You like 3 goals?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to take anything away from the cultivate relationships with families and other educational organizations, businesses, and development agencies. I mean, we kind of had that as an objective, I think, last time. I think it's very strong. I think it's something we still want to very, very work on. I just don't know that it needs to be a goal.
Okay.
I think it still fits well under some of the others, and like you said, it's not that by changing that at all that we're going to be taking away from it. It still may have, several sub-points underneath it, but I would be okay with 3.
Did you like the second option or the third option then better?
I think I actually preferred the 3rd better.
The third? Okay. I had a couple people say that it seemed like there was some placement of objectives that seemed like they made a little more sense with the 3rd one than the second one.
I would echo Luke's. I mean, I'm completely fine with doing the 3. My only concern with cutting them down was I didn't know if we would, by doing that, if we were putting too many subcategories or too many things under each individual one. But again, I'm okay with going either way.
Well, I tell you one thing, there was a little bit with our 5 goals the last time. There was a couple times individuals saying that 1 or 2 of those goals didn't need to be. I mean,
Right, and that was my only thing. Is,
so you can get a little bit
fine with
both.
that, but yeah.
So I agree with you, Lance. It's just, I think we can make it so that it has just as much substance or strength with those objectives that are underneath the goal, you know, that we're working from. And they have to be. I mean, I say they have to be. It makes sense that they are because our school improvement process for the district as a whole, we're in a position that we have to do that for the state. And if we've identified that relationships is one of them, and that was done building by building, and everyone, I mean, they all identified that, not just at a district level, but every building identified relationships, then it just makes sense that it will be a strong element of that particular goal. Other thoughts, or because if that's it, and if you don't have anything that's detailed upon option 3, I'll follow. I would work from option 3. I'll try to end up even cleaning up more, send it out to you even before the end of this week. I mean, make sure that you have it. And then from that point, I'd be trying to consider other possible objectives that should be identified under those 3 different goals then. Okay. And if you remember, and then our mission, and then instead of 5 goals, there'd be the 3. We immediately start working from that, putting that in place so it's in print. We hopefully as soon as possible, within a couple months. Try to identify objectives so that it's very understood what that is, and start over again with a timetable of what is reasonable of getting some of these accomplished even before the end of this year, and then what we're looking at for the following year. That's much of the same procedure as the last time.
Actually, I'm in favor of 3 goals versus 4. It really doesn't matter to me too much, because what really matters is if we work hard to reach those objectives. I mean, obviously we want to reach the goals too, but if you have 5 objectives under a goal and you meet 3 or 4 of those objectives, then you can consider the goal at least mostly met. That's the idea behind all this work. So as long as we have measurable objectives, that's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Well, I appreciate very much your work on it, because the item there is we're going to be having a visit. Our accreditation visit will be, at this point, it hasn't been set, but I'm guessing it'll be this spring. We're going to have individuals come in, and in that visit it was stated that one thing that they were hoping they would see is site councils, district learning teams, building learning teams, all of these having discussions and always be working from the standpoint of what have you addressed as making our school a better place? How do you improve it? And these are the items that can make our school better. But then they were saying, but at a board meeting, probably should see much of the same too. You should have conversations that tie to the same. If this is supposed to end up making our buildings better and our district better, then there should be on a regular basis, not an infrequent, but a regular basis, conversations that tie into this as well. So it's nice to see that there's a parallel that's involved in this.
Before we move on, I want to thank you and your team for doing the work you've done on these goals and objectives. It's relatively easy for us as a board to throw a bunch of stuff at you and say, go do something with it.
Well, Mike, you're kind, but you did this.
Well,
You can't say that I did or the team did much at all. This is your work, you know. These are the ideas, and that's what's exciting about it is, you know, I really did get the 7 board members' input in putting this all together.
But I also know it takes a lot of behind the scenes work to get it into shape.
Well, the next 2 months, you're right,
Okay.
but not yet.
In 2 months I'll run you again.
Well, and I'll kind of agree with Mike a little bit here too. I get what you're saying. We did do this, but what I remember us doing and this looks entirely different. This is much more organized chaos. I like this.
Yes.
So
Very good.
I think that's what he's going for.
What is the next one going to look like that we see?
The next one will be focusing on that option 3. So we'll just work off of option 3, and with it, I'm going to send it, I'm going to try to, when I said wordsmith, did to some degree, but maybe look at it again and see if there's better ways to say some of this. Have some other individuals look at it that hasn't at this point, and then I would like for our administrative team to look at it to then, I want to, I'd make sure that they're still separate so you can end up seeing them, but I want to throw out more objectives that may fit underneath these goals and see what your thoughts are of them. So they would be sent to you just to see if they fit with what your thoughts are of what each goal is supposed to be covering. That would be the next step.
Anything else for John on these? Okay. All right. If not, the next item for old business is administrative handbook policy revisions.
If you remember at the last, I think it was the last meeting or the meeting before, we had addressed that some of the work we did last year of updating needed to be updated again because of crisis drills, and we were bringing that back to you. The question came up of saying, is that really something that has to be approved? Do we need to bring this back to you again at the 2 meetings in a row, or is it more a matter of just that you see what the changes are? So that's what we're presenting, is for you to look over how it's worded. Because it's mandated, I'm still not really with the belief that there needs to be a vote on this, because it has to be, but I wanted the board to see how the wording was being changed so that it kind of fell in order with what the state was requiring. And Tracy just told me before this meeting, I had not heard that, but there was some groups that were going to the state and saying that they are very happy to see more attention on crisis drills, but felt like there may be still some changes that need to be made. I mean, maybe there can be drills and work that's done that doesn't always have to involve the children with 9 different crisis drills through the year. And so I don't know if that will ring true in the ears of legislators or others at the state level, but we may see some changes before the end of the year again with this.
So like when one of the kids accidentally pulls the fire alarm during lunch, does that count as one of the drills, or does it have to be scheduled? Can they cross that one off the list?
Yes. They usually do use those because they are a drill. They go ahead and now.
I was helping at lunch 2 weeks ago.
That doesn't take
and I was like,
away the seriousness of kids playing around with the fire alarms.
no, but I saw it last week. I was helping in the lunchroom, and I was like, man, we lined those kids up right there by that alarm. It's just so tempting. Sure enough. So do you need a vote for the revisions, or they're all done and taken care of?
Yeah, we'll get it printed and out.
Perfect. All right, next we have an enrollment update from Shanna.
We have here, we had talked, gosh, maybe in the first July, or when we talked about in a moment. Here are the audited numbers from since 2012-13, so you can kind of see the totals are there at the bottom. Of course, what you see there for 18-19 is unaudited. That's where we are now. Again, that could change by our official September 20th submission, ENRL, our enrollment collection, but that's what it's looking like, unaudited numbers. Then again, in the spring, we are audited, and we will know specifically and can update this. We've been steadily increasing. If you just take a look across the bottom, it is interesting. If you look at how much we're increasing, you might just think, well, it's our outgoing 12th graders or incoming kindergartners, but if you go from last year to this year, you know, the first graders were 260, we dropped to 245 in second grade. So there are some grade levels that really took some drops. Our biggest jump probably was our 8th grade class, and then now this year's freshmen we increased. Those are probably either surrounding kids that came to Hayes High or other private school kids. We gained some usually at that high school level. So you can kind of roll up and take a look at where those changes are, but it would be up. What we were projecting maybe around 30 students if it all works that way, with the final count coming up and then our audit in the spring is the determining factor. And this is just head count, and then we get weightings for different classifications, transportation, at-risk, CTE, bilingual, virtual. That all plays a part as well. But we wanted to share the numbers as of where we are now.
Very good. So the audited numbers, that's after all the weighting takes place, or am I confusing two different things?
Well, that we get base state per pupil, and that's what these numbers, and then there's additional weighting for some
Okay.
of those. Those numbers and estimates are included on this. This is just the head count.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right.
And does it always adjust downward when you get audited? Like we're at 3,033 right now. Can you guesstimate it'll be 3,020 or?
You know,
Too hard to say.
we
Does it ever go up?
There are times we gain. Our auditor will find the minutes that maybe we missed, and she'll give us credit. So we do have pluses and minuses from what we submit or John submits on the SO66. So all of that is audited very closely. We could adjust. She may find kids that we didn't have, or vice versa, counting. So head count is head count, and then she actually checks instructional minutes for each of those.
Right.
So some of them are maxed out like 360 minutes, some others are more like 300, and that's what the work that our auditor does. To then give us FTE versus head count, and then breaks it down into weightings for some of those special categories.
But
Quite a process.
So Mike's question is exactly what you're trying to get across is if you walk out of here and say that we are up 30 kids,
Yeah.
that's not
It's not right.
That's not fair to say, because we're not comparing the same time. The audited up there is February, March. The unaudited that we're looking at right now is before even the September 20th count, you know, and it's just safer right now to, if anybody's asking me, I'm saying we're in very good shape. It looks like very similar to last year. I hate to be that wishy-washy, but it just seems to be a lot healthier way to answer it. If we turn around and we're 30 up in February, fantastic. But it may not be. It may not be that number. So.
Yes, and it's projection, so Christina, don't quote us, this is unofficial. I don't want to see a headline.
I
Like
said
the last
depending on
time. Well, and this is head count, but you know, because we're a sped co-op and some of that, those aren't really students sitting in our buildings. In these numbers are also Holy Family, TMP kids that we count because of whatever special ed services, title services, all the other things that we collaborate on. That gets even a little more messy and complicated, but that's what we're looking at.
Okay.
And I'm going to say it just so the public would end up understanding it a little bit. Head count is counting all the different children that we are actually working with. But FTE could be a matter that Sophia only counts 0.2. Mike, you only count 0.5. Lance counts 1.0, Luke counts, and the reason why it works that way is depending upon if they're at Holy Family and they're just getting some special ed services for one period, just a little bit of the day. It gets really a bit messy counting that up. And it's hard to end up saying until you're completely finished how that all adds up.
Yeah, so this is head
Makes sense. Yeah, that sounds good.
And then if you do look, our smallest classes are juniors and seniors, so we should, if that kindergarten number stays the same, which is what the projection is, around 250, we should see a slight increase the next couple of years as those smaller, classes move out. So those are just things that we'll keep an eye on. And then I just wanted to add, we do have our first early release this Wednesday, so I know buildings are sending that out, but we will dismiss at 1 o'clock. And we will be spending some time in buildings doing the suicide prevention. That's a requirement, an annual training. We have some new resources for that, so buildings will be working on that, discussing that as staff among some, as well as some other things. So just wanted to remind everyone about early release.
Okay.
Anything else for Shanna? Okay.
Nope, thanks.
Next is discussion by board members and agenda requests. I have one since we didn't have a financial section tonight, Tracy. I have two sizable checks over here, and the description on one of them is for HMS classroom lease, and the other one is HMS 8 classroom payment.
We had two separate construction projects. One was a 6 classroom addition to Hayes Middle School. One was an 8 classroom addition to Hayes Middle School. And so they're under 2 separate leases. They were done at different points in time.
Okay.
And those are just our annual payments for each of them.
Where are we at with these payments?
It's on the capital outlay report. One was, I think we've still got 3 years possibly.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
I get
you're-
nervous signing big checks.
No, you're fine. One, the 6 classroom edition, we are in year 6 of 10, and the 8 classroom edition, we are in year 5 of 10.
5 to 10. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Does anybody have anything else for discussion? We need executive session?
We do.
How long?
Start at 10,
10? Let's go 15 just to be
start with
safe.
15.
All right, and everyone? Okay, all right. I move the Board of Education recess into executive session along with the board attorney, the superintendent, the financial director, the assistant superintendent, and the director of special ed to discuss matters relating to employer-employee renegotiations, whether or not in consultation with the representation or representatives of the public body or agency according to KSA 75-4319B3, with the open session to resume in this room at, we'll just call it 7:15. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All those opposed, nay? All right, here we go.